Hello, welcome to my channel. Again, I'm so grateful that you're here. I've been thinking lately about disenfranchised grief. I am really into grief support. I've graduated with my master's in thanatology, which is the study of death, dying, and bereavement. I know I've talked about it here before, but it's not a real common discipline or study, so I'm mentioning it again. I've been thinking about it in regards to sexual abuse and various ways that we are not supported through that process and how we can grieve. There's so much grief that comes along with that, but it's just not supported by society. There's so much shame around sexual abuse, and we tend to keep experiences hidden. We keep them under wraps. We don't talk about them. They're not supported. Oftentimes, we might be sexually abused by family members, so we're certainly not going to get to talk to other family about it. There's so many scenarios and so many ways that we are not supported to talk about these experiences. So I'm not going to go into the details about them. There's so many ways that sexual abuse can happen and can occur for each of us. I think the prevalence of sexual abuse is unbelievably widespread, and it has many different faces, and I think that is part of what I'm inspired to talk to you about today, because I've had my own experiences with sexual abuse, and while I wasn't like violently raped, I've had experiences, and so I feel like because my experience wasn't as bad as it could have been, I didn't really validate it or didn't honor it in the way that it should be honored. And I think to this day I'm still very conflicted about my various experiences, and I've just been kind of diving into them a little bit more and looking at the harm that they have caused me, and especially maybe a lot of harm because I haven't honored them and given them space for what they were. I tried to brush them under the rug, or because they weren't, as bad as they could have been, I felt like I didn't have a right to really grieve them or be upset about them or even count them, which is really strange and bizarre. But I know that I am not alone in this experience, and that's why I wanted to talk about it and just put it out there. So this may or may not be all that eloquent, but I'm just kind of working through it myself. There was one situation there. There's been numerous situations, really, and I know there's a spectrum of sexual abuse, sexual, what's the word I want to look for? Inappropriate behavior, that we might not recognize or might not honor, or because it wasn't, again, not a horrific, violent situation, but nonetheless, it really has an effect on us and has an effect on how we view our own sexuality, our sense of self-worth, how we connect with others in the future, how we relate to, did I say this, to our sexuality, our own sexuality, how we express ourselves, how we might get fearful, how we might go into shame, guilt, confusion around our sexual energy, and confusion around how to connect, what is appropriate, what isn't. I personally have shut down a lot, and it's been a lifelong journey to work my way back out, and this stuff doesn't I think it's a journey, it's a spiral. We might heal and then, or come to a place where we think we've moved through something, and then we come back around and it's just like, oh, there's that thing again, shoot, I thought I was over this. And then we do more work, and then we come back around and we're like, shoot, I thought I did all my work on this. I thought I was good. And then it shows up again. So it's just kind of like, it's a spiral. I think a lot of us are learning it and understanding now how this spiral of healing works. And grief is a big piece of that. We can really work with that, work with the grieving, the loss of certain aspects of ourselves, and our sexuality is a real big piece of that. And this can get lost, a healthy relationship to sexuality at a very young age, and just, growing up in this society, not many people have a healthy relationship to their sexuality. There's so much complications and weird things attached to our sexuality, and it's been perverted and used and degraded and just really messed with, through our society, through the different systems, and through the patriarchy, through various religious systems, shunning and shaming the body, shunning and shaming sexuality, especially for women, and being treated as property, being just over-sexualized, and there's a lot of confusion around what healthy sexual energy looks like and what is a healthy sexual expression. There's so much to unpack here. There's so much to unpack just being born into our society. Then you add on to it the complications of sexual abuse, being mistreated sexually, sexual trauma, whatever word you want to put onto it, now we've got that added on. And again, so many of us are dealing with this, so many of us. It's rare that I speak with somebody that doesn't have some form of sexual abuse in their history. I'm thinking of, the incidences that were the most confusing for me were the ones that weren't quite as traumatic. And this is, what was this? Okay, so there was an evening where I'd been drinking with some friends at a bar, and my boyfriend, we had been drinking, and they lived, this is many years ago, they lived up above the bar. It was kind of like apartments up above, when there's, a restaurant down below. It was a restaurant where they served alcohol. And then there was, a living up above in the building. And so after, drinking downstairs, we went upstairs, and eventually I just went to bed. I was tired. I was ready to go to sleep, and woke up to somebody trying to kiss me and touching me. And I thought it was my boyfriend, and I was just like, not right now. I'm just not in that space. I'm kind of like sleeping, actually. So go away. So, and the person left, and then they came back, and it happened again. And this time I had fingers inside of me, and somebody was kissing me, and I again thought it was my boyfriend. I was like, well, stop. Not like that makes it okay, which is a really complicated thing right there. Still not okay, right? Even if you're not like wanting this and not actively, pursuing it or giving permission. Then I realized that this person had their tongue pierced, and my boyfriend at the time did not have their tongue pierced. So I knew immediately, like, this was not my boyfriend. And so I jumped up with a quickness and turned the light on, and it was not my boyfriend. This was somebody else. This was the bartender down at the bar below. And I was just like, what the hell are you doing? And I was in kind of a panic, fearful place too, because not only was I in shock and just trying to like organize all of this in my mind and try to figure out what the hell was happening, then there was a fear like this could escalate. I need to get myself the hell out of here and get to safety. I need to get away from here. So all of these crazy things were going through my mind, and I just had to get the hell out of that place. And I did, and I'm hearing him in the background screaming, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean it." They're like, didn't mean it? How do you not mean whatever you were doing? So anyways, called the police, and they came and took the reports, and didn't really do much about it. I had to basically hunt the guy down myself and call the police. This was, days later. I kept watching him. He still worked in the same place, and the police were saying like, "Oh, we can't find this guy. We don't know where he is. We haven't arrested him yet." I'm like, he's still working there. Like, it's not complicated. He's right there. He's right there. Go get this person. This is not okay. And so finally, I remember seeing him in the window. He was there. So I pulled over. This was I was driving by. Pulled over, and I called the police again, and I said, he's here. He's working here right now. And they did finally arrest him, but it clearly wasn't a high priority for them, I guess is the point that I'm trying to make, because that's part of the problem. These issues are not high priority for the police, for the systems. This kind of stuff happens all the time, and it's just so normalized and accepted and not a problem, not a priority. Anyways, he was arrested and charged on multiple counts of sex abuse one, sexual assault 1 and sexual assault 2, maybe. I can't recall. Actually, it's been so long. Or sex abuse 1, sex abuse 2, and breaking and entering, because he wasn't allowed, and that wasn't his home. Anyway, I had to go before the grand jury, explain my story to see if they would back me up and indict this person and press charges. And luckily they did, but that's a not fun experience. But they did press charges, and this person did go to I think they took it to trial again. This has been so long ago, I don't really recall. But he did get charged. He was found guilty of all of these things, and he went to prison. And apparently he had done this before to somebody else too. She dropped the charges because she was scared. But I mostly just didn't want this person to do this again to somebody else. And if he did, then there would be a record of it. So, but I wasn't, oddly enough, horribly traumatized by this experience, or I didn't allow myself to be. I don't know. It was really strange. I knew this person. Not that that matters. I guess here's where the confusion is, and here's where the strangeness is, and here's where I think we've been told how we're supposed to relate to certain experiences, what is bad, what isn't bad, and it can be confusing. This situation was very confusing for me because, again, somebody went to prison for some time, and I had to grapple with that, because I didn't feel horribly traumatized by the experience. I felt more, I was angry that somebody felt they could do this to me, but again, I was kind of feeling sorry for this person, kind of feeling bad that that's what they felt they needed to do, or whatever in their life got them to that point that they needed to do this, so I really had to work with that, what's wrong with me that I'm not super traumatized right now. And even the courts were like, do you need help around this? Do you need some therapy? Do you need something? I was just like, no, actually I'm okay. And that felt weird. I didn't know how to relate to that too. It's like, oh my God, is there something wrong with me? So there's strangeness around that. And I still kind of work with that. Is there something I'm missing? I don't know. There's a lot of pieces to this right now, and I had to deal with a lot of guilt for sending this person to prison, and then I had to really kind of grapple with that, no, this is something this person did, there are repercussions, but that also, I don't think prison is necessarily the best answer for this, because it's not rehabilitation, it's not supporting this person's issues, their own pain and trauma, whatever happened to them to get them to this point. That's how I look at things, how I view things. I mean, people don't start doing strange behaviors to other people unless they're dealing with their own pain and trauma. So I guess in that sense, that's why I was kind of above the actual physical experience of it. I wasn't physically hurt. I mean, it was completely inappropriate, absolutely, but I did not feel traumatized by it. So So that's a weird thing to work with there too, because society tells us, oh, we're supposed to be like so upset, but yet we're not supported around that. I don't know. It's very strange and complicated. And now I'm wondering what my purpose is here for telling you this story. And I think I want to bring up these conversations because it is very complicated and it's not just so across the board. The other experience that I had that was really well, there's been a number of them, but was very abusive, an abusive situation, a relationship that I was in back when I was younger. I was very heavily addicted to drugs and in abusive relationships, and not, yeah, that didn't go well. But this person that I was with basically held me captive and was super paranoid, doing really strange behaviors, and thought that I was out to get him, or I don't know what. There's a lot of complications around that, a lot of really strange stuff. I won't get into all the details of it because it was just like really horrible, but I was just held captive and not made to have sex, but kind of. If I didn't, there was repercussions. So it wasn't like I was raped against my will necessarily, but it was, yeah, I would be in a lot of trouble if I wasn't engaging sexually. And it was not a lot of psychological abuse, a lot of emotional abuse. There was also physical abuse. But that was a traumatizing situation that it took years to unwind and undo, and I still like I definitely feel like I'm still working with that one because it goes deep and it really kind of comes in at some very strange levels, and the psychological abuse really messes with a person, you know, it can. So now I'm wondering again, like, what was my point with all of this? I got into this. As you can see, this stuff is not easy to talk about. It's challenging, and I really want my videos and my sharing style to be just as real as possible. I don't want to get on here and act like I have it all figured out and all together, because I don't. What I'm passionate about is creating containers to help us to talk about these things and move through them. And there is no real easy way to work through this stuff. And some of it's really complicated. And that's what I'm having this conversation for, is because I'm realizing as I'm continuing to do my work, you know, and in that spiral piece, it's like continuing, I'm bumping up against it again. I'm coming up against the sexuality piece, the healthy sexuality. What is it? What blocks me from my own really healthy sexual expression? And like, here it is again. I'm running into this, like the deep layers of this stuff. So, yeah, it causes blockages. It causes some real blockages. The trauma goes deep, you know, it goes really deep. I want to talk about this because I want to normalize how not normal it is. There's no normal way to move through this. There's no normal grieving process. There's no normal time range. There's no normal timeline. There's no normal like modality that's going to move you through it. There's no words to be said that are going to fix it. There's no, you know, it's freaking complicated, and it's a journey and it's a process, and so many of us are working with it, and you know, men and women are working with it. There's so many men out there that are dealing with this sexual abuse piece as well, that I'm just shocked to, the more I go along, the more I learn about this. I thought it was more women, you know, dealing with this. I thought it was kind of special to us, but it's not. So yeah, I just want to just talk about this, talk about the fact that it's not talked about a lot. You know how complicated this is, and maybe it is in some places. I don't see this a lot. Just how my screen just went dark there. Um, yeah, how complicated it is. I just want to create a container, hold space for however you might be moving through it yourself, if this is a part of your experience, and the fact that there's so many different variations of it. You know, for me, again, it's like, because it wasn't some sort of violent rape, I felt like I didn't have any right to really work through my stuff or honor it or recognize it. And it's not until like I start realizing the effects of the experiences I did have, how much there is to be worked through. You know, there is a lot, and this stuff affects us. It affects us in really interesting ways, or sometimes it doesn't affect us in the ways that we think it should, and that's another thing to work through. So it's just strange. It's just some strange stuff we're dealing with here, and you know, I want to honor that, and say I see you, and I empathize with you, and you're not alone if you're finding all of this challenging, if your own experience has been very challenging, if you don't even know what angle to work with it from, because I've gone through that myself. Like, I don't know exactly what to do. I know I'm affected, but I don't know exactly how to work with this. I find myself, you know, I do the energy healing and sound healing and work with crystals a lot, and plant spirits, essential oils, and herbs, and all of those frequencies of really working with my ancestors, the ancestral piece. You know, we inherit a lot of this weird sexual energy as well, you know, in our collective, in our society. So ritual, all of these different ways to really honor my own process, honor the emotions that do come up, and to work through them. The grief, or the sound healing and energy healing, all these different frequencies really gets in and works with these energies, because again, like, this isn't mental. We can't wrap our minds around this. I can't wrap my mind around how I was affected by these things. I didn't get a book. Society hasn't given me any good understanding of how to work with this, because so much of it is shunned and shamed, and so much of it is like, you know, we watch movies, we see TV, we see how other people are dealing with their responses to sexual abuse or sexual trauma, and we think ours is supposed to look like that, and when it doesn't, it's very confusing. So the scripts we've been given don't work, because it's not all across the board. It's not one size fits all. We're each coming in with our own energies, our own personal experience, our own family experience, our own societal, cultural, religious experiences, our own spiritual connections or lack thereof, our own ways, our own energies. So it's not going to be a one size fits all. I always kind of laugh, you know, after some experience. There's, in a movie, inevitably the woman will be in the shower scrubbing herself off and just you know, crumpled on the floor whenever something traumatizing happens, and it's just, that's what we've been given. Like, here's how you're supposed to grieve this or deal with this sexual abuse, you know? And it's just like, you know, maybe that's not what it looks like for us, and maybe there's a lot more going on. Maybe, I don't know, our reaction is very different. So I just want to, like, again, normalize that there's nothing normal. There's no normal way to do this. So thank you for witnessing my process, because these things are just kind of hard to talk about. They're just kind of weird. It brings up all sorts of stuff, and each time is a little different. And I guess I haven't really shared my story publicly in this kind of format, so I kind of ran into my own, like, wow, I feel really weird sharing this. And I kind of got lost a little bit, like, why am I sharing this? This isn't important. Nobody wants to hear this. Well, I went into my own kind of judgment, shame, guilt, weirdness kind of thing. So that's part of the process. So I'm going to let that fly, and I'm going to still post this, even though it feels really freaking awkward. It feels really strange to be that vulnerable and to let you see my process, even though that, yeah, I mean, that's what we're doing here, and that's what I'm here to honor. Um, so yeah, I'm going to let it fly. I'm going to let it ride. And I thank you for witnessing me. I'm sure there's going to be more that comes up here around this, because again, I do feel really kind of awkward and vulnerable after sharing all of that. Yeah, I feel myself like wanting to go kind of run and hide. And that's important. That's an important piece, to not go run and hide, and to just put it out there. And because I do know that so many of us are dealing with this, and it is important to talk about it. It's important to put it out there, and honor the strangeness of it, and the complications of it, and the weirdness of it, and the sorrow, and the yeah, all of the feels. It's got all of the feels. Yeah, I don't even know how to wrap this up with a nice, tidy little bow, because it isn't. There's nothing tidy and nice about it. It's a fucking mess. It's a fucking mess that we can just keep working through and working through and working through. And yeah, again, sound and energy healing are powerful. So this is what I work with, helping to clear these energies and to talk about them and start bringing them up. It's when we keep them stuffed down is when they cause real problems. But we can talk about this. We can rise it up. We can bring it out of the unconscious. We can help move it, get it out of our bodies. We got to get this shit out of our bodies, out of our energy bodies, out of our minds, out of our emotions. We need to move it. We need to move it. We need to move it. So let's do this work together. If this is inspiring you, if you feel called to it, let's do some work. Let's get some sessions going and help to move the energy and clear it out, because I do know that when it stays in there, we really can't get beyond it. So, and yeah, it's always going to be a thing, but we can find a lot of release and clearing in this process. We can clear this shit out. It gets a lot easier. Trust me on that. So, but yeah, we've got to bring it out into the conscious. We've got to bring it out. We've got to talk about it. We've got to move it. We have to move it. We have to move it. Ritual, sound healing, energy healing, working with crystals, talking about it, writing, journal, move that shit out, move it out. So thank you for being here. Thank you for witnessing my strange process. And, not gonna lie, that was weird and challenging, but there it is. I'm a real person, and I've got a lot of stuff that still there. There's a lot of stuff that we're working with. So, but we are working with it, and that's exciting. That's positive. So we got some great tools. We got some great people. We've got some connection here. It's awesome. So a lot of awareness to what we're dealing with, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful time to be on the planet, because we do have great tools to work with this. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of my process. Thank you for yeah, thanks.